to the Vitalmoments podcast. My name is David. I get to be the host today. I'm finally back on, Ron. It's been, you called me a slouch off camera. You did call me a slouch. I've been traveling the world, proclaiming the gospel with you.
Oh boy, international speaker.
I only spoke like twice or three times.
Over the 8 days. People loved you in India.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it was weird. It was interesting.
Because even people wanted to stop and take their picture with you. I would just get out of the way and they'd take your picture.
It was so weird. It's like they'd never seen a white guy before. It was so awesome, though. It is good to be back, though. Man, yeah, it is. It's already February. We're crushing through this year already. Yeah. And this past weekend, we kicked off one of probably the most anticipated series for me personally.
Yeah.
And I know some people that have been around for a while, they've been like, okay, when are we doing the spiritual gifts series again?
Yeah.
The Empowered series.
What did we do? We did it in 2021.
It was 2021. So it's like, yeah, it's not just a few years ago. It feels like eons ago now. Well,
and the reason why we did it in 2021, we weren't even gathering at the time. We weren't permitted to gather in spaces. And I had been wanting to do the series, and we decided just to do the series even though people weren't in the room. And I believe that was the beginning of something that was important for us as a church, because now what we started this past weekend was part of our 3-year strategy of moving towards a church that is more geared around people understanding their spiritual gifts.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's actually a strategic move, a prayerful strategic move as we look at the next 3 years.
And I think like the key phrase right there is a prayerful strategic move, because you said on Sunday, like, you talk to followers of Jesus and you say, hey, what's your spiritual gift? Someone go like hum and ha, they don't really know, or they list things that aren't really spiritual gifts. Yeah. And you were very clear. That could be an inside look of how poorly the church, not just one church, but the church has maybe not taught and equipped followers of Jesus, but there's also this side that we carry responsibility as followers of Jesus to discern these things, to search for these things. Paul in the New Testament says, desire the spiritual gifts, right?
Yep.
And like what we learned in India, like some of them didn't even know, they thought just the pastors had spiritual gifts.
Well, yes, right. I forgot about that, right? Because when we taught on spiritual gifts in India, people were blown away. They literally thought, no, it's only the guy or woman at the front that has the spiritual gifts. And it's so true that, it's not just a Western problem. I think it's a general problem. And it's interesting because because I'm in my office, you're in your office in Exeter, Josh, our producer's at his place, but I have 3 of the residents in the room here watching the podcast interview. And just to give them an experience of behind the scenes of what we do and all the nonsense that happens with the podcast. My hope for these 4 residents is that over the next few years, they fully lean into what their spiritual gifts are without hesitation. That they actually, as they get their theological training, as they get their leadership training, that in the midst of that, they'll understand what their spiritual gifts are, because it's a place of guaranteed power, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm excited for them.
Fire hose. They're going to be drinking from a fire hose for these next few years.
Well, even just the courses they're taking right now are awesome. So,
but that's our heart for the whole church, right? So if you are at VBC, whether you're connected in a connect group or you're on a serving team, or maybe you're newer and you're kind of like just jumping into this conversation because you've heard about this crazy wild podcast, our heart is for us to align our wirings and our giftings with God the Father, who then, if you place your faith in Jesus and became a devoted follower to him, you will gain understanding and knowledge of the spiritual gift that he's placed upon your life. Not for yourself. I love this, and I want you to open this up. It's not for yourself, for you to cuddle and coddle and keep to yourself, but actually serve others and to reveal the reality of his kingdom in this world.
Yeah, that's an important thing for us to understand, because the gifts that the Father gives his children, his sons and his daughters, what I talked about in the message was this idea of the invitation to be in the game.
I love that. Get off the bench.
Right? Get off the bench, right? And I often feel like people don't feel like there's a place for them. I was thinking about this after yesterday in Poplar Hill. I was driving home and I was thinking, oftentimes people think that, well, everything runs so smoothly, I'm not needed. Right? Maybe we need a few Sundays where things go off the rails, or people think, yeah, I'm needed. Right? It's
Close
this
the
idea.
cafe for a weekend.
What's that? What's that?
Close the cafe for a weekend
Yeah,
at
you did
church to
that,
see
right?
people.
Yeah. Gift of helps up there. So I think that there's, I believe, David, there's a piece of it where we must understand that each and every person has a role to play. I actually had a spontaneous moment in Poplar Hill. It wasn't on the video, unfortunately. It was a moment where I stepped out of the message and I just spoke directly to the community and said, and I'll say it to the broader community now, our mission, vision, and kingdom assignment is so massive, it's beyond just one or two people.
Wow.
It is essential that people understand their spiritual gifts so they can help be part of the kingdom work that is happening through Vitalpoint. And we have people looking in and talking and speaking into the reality of what's happening at Vitalpoint. And there is a real movement of God here for whatever reason, and his purposes, like his varied grace we talked about from 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 10 and 11. But I think for us, it's realizing that over the next 3 years, when we're looking at the residency development, when we're looking at the network development, when we're looking at strengthening each and every site that we plant in small towns, it's going to take people that will say, I'm no longer going to make excuses. That's one thing that I believe what happens is people often make the excuse. They make excuses for not using their gifts. They may know what their gifts are. Well, I came at it from a perspective of people don't know their gifts, but there are people that know their gifts and are disobedient and don't use them.
Yeah.
And that's what actually, I would go as far as to say that James says, if you know what you need to do and don't do it, what is it?
Oh, sin.
Sin.
Yeah.
Now we're preaching, Dave.
Yeah. Come on.
Right? Because like oftentimes we think sin is this big, horrible thing that we've done that's ugly, but yet James talks so clearly, if you know what you ought to do and don't do it,
you're sinning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or here's the other piece of it, David. Let me go off here for a second.
Go for it.
You're hosting.
I'm a slouch, remember?
Yeah, you're a slouch. What does Paul talk about in 1 Corinthians? He said, the kingdom of heaven is not a lot of talk. It is power.
It is power.
Right?
Yeah.
So you think about this. We can sit around and talk about our spiritual gifts and neglect to actually put them in play, missing out on the power that's available to us by the Spirit of God. That's what's so beautiful about the church. The awe and the wonder of the church is not set up as a religious system serving the individual. It is the body of Christ. And so for me, when I think about this series and how important it is, it's as important as when we talk about spiritual disciplines and getting in community with one another.
Yeah.
That's why we're going after it.
Just a little bit passionate about it, eh?
Just a touch.
Because the reality is, when you think about the kingdom of heaven, it is a kingdom of power, and there's a supernatural power in this world. That's who God is. He is supernatural. He creates a reality, but there's a reality of his kingdom as well. And when a follower of Jesus begins to, what was the 4 Ds? It was discern, discover, discern, deploy,
and
develop, right?
Yeah, but it's all together. Like
it really
it's
is
not like individual things, right?
No, it really is. When it comes to life, and as I've been praying about it, and I might have messaged you or someone else on our team, it's true life and true power coming together to walk on the narrow path with God.
Oh man, yeah.
True life, true power, infused together by his Spirit to walk on the narrow path, right? And it will reveal his true divine love for this world, of why his son. We got to go to Jesus here because he is our example. He is our model. Yes, he is God, but like we talked about, he emptied himself.
Okay, right? Yeah.
Let's get to this, right? But if you are wondering, okay, how am I supposed to have true life and true power and walk on this narrow path? It is so tough. Simple answer. You look at Christ's life.
Yeah.
Go there for it.
And that's the thing that we went to on in this message was Christ being the model of what it means to be empowered. And it comes from a misunderstanding of Jesus, right? We often look at Jesus and all the healing and miracles and casting out demons and teaching epic stories because he was God in the flesh. And he was God in the flesh. But yet Paul talks about in Philippians 2, that he emptied himself. He set aside.
Yep. His divinity.
He actually took on human limitation, right? So that he can identify with us and know what it's like. And the wilderness experience was the guiding, directing of the Spirit into the wilderness. And then in the wilderness, he's learning how to be empowered. And then you see over the course of his life for the 3 years, what's he doing? He's up spending time with the Father.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a piece of it that in John Thompson's book, Convergence, I mean, that's where a lot of the series is going to be. He's going to help us with the series, his book. I mean, that's what he talks about, is that Christ being our model is the best thing that can happen for us as individuals and churches and wherever God places us. If Jesus had to be empowered,
how much more do we need to?
How much more?
But then he says to us, you will do more than I have done.
Yeah.
Right? This is the get off the bench kind of moment, right?
Yeah. And it happens because why? When the gifts come together in the body of Christ.
Yeah. When each limb works together, right?
Yeah.
And by grace, we've been given these gifts. I think that's Romans chapter 12. Paul writes to the church and says, by grace, we've been given these gifts. Right? So you operate in grace.
So that's, what was the song we sang yesterday?
Made for more?
Yeah, we're not tending a grave. It's the grace, fountain of grace or something like that. And I was listening to it, and we actually did it all 3 services yesterday. We decided to add it in the first service and just go a bit over. But grace is that thing that continues to be poured out in our lives. And I think that's what Peter talks about in 1 Peter 4.
Yeah.
Right. The varied grace. It's
varied grace.
that continuation of the pouring out of the grace in our lives. And we often think grace is that first initial thing that we get in our relationship with God through Christ. But then it's the continuation of the varied grace, which is that deploying of the gifts according to his plan and his purposes and the impact. Whenever we do talks, you do this, and maybe some of these residents sitting in here one day will get a practice shot at preaching. Not publicly, we'll do it, have them in front of the speaker squad first, like you did years ago. You get to a point in the talk where you're really super excited about something.
Yeah.
And I was super excited about the one point for me was, it's our responsibility to put the gifts in service. We're not responsible for the outcome of it.
Yeah.
Right? That's God. That's God's responsibility.
Yeah.
What restricts some people from using their gifts is they're worried about the outcome. It's not my problem. Like my gift of teaching, I would drive myself crazy if I was worried about the outcome of my teaching. Because I don't know what the percentages are, but there's very few people that actually put into practice the things that I teach.
Let's send out a survey.
No.
Ron's preaching.
No,
I'm just kidding. It might be higher than you think, though, right? Because
it might.
I think with the transition over the last little while, we've been looking behind the scenes more recently. Of like, okay, we've been really desiring and really joyful the way that God has been shaping the movement of VPC in small towns. Is we are presenting the word, and we are trusting, like full on faith and trusting that the Holy Spirit will remove the veil from people's eyes. Right?
Okay. Yes. Okay. Can I share something?
Go for it.
Go for it.
Hey, it's all you, bro.
No,
this is you, dude.
I'm not bro. I'm your dad.
And my boss.
The boys are laughing here. Oh shoot, where was I going? Oh, after the 3rd service in Poplar Hill, I got talking to this young woman who's been coming for about a month and a half to church. And she's like, Ron, I don't know what is going on. Every time I come to this place, things happen. Like I feel like you're speaking directly to me, and we know it's a God thing. And I do joke with her. We actually have cameras in her family's house, and we don't. So, but what happened yesterday, dude, was incredible. I'm having this faith conversation with her, and she's worried. She was not worried. She was talking about releasing control to God and what happens on the other side when I give my life to Jesus. And as I'm talking to her, I see this young couple that's part of Poplar Hill. I know that she's come to faith in the last few years. I call her over I'm like, can you give your testimony and share with her? And in the midst of her sharing her testimony with this girl and how she came to faith and what it's like afterwards, and she was pretty blunt. She said, after I came to Christ, my life was terrible. And it was awesome. She was just so raw and open. But this girl who has all these questions started, she says, I'm starting to see different. And then this girl that I brought over, Mariana, she says, your veil is being lifted. And I had this moment where I realized, yes, we talk about the veil being completely removed.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, I think God just slowly removes the veil and just allows people to see his grace. And I'm looking at Marianne. I'm like, this would preach.
Come on.
I was like, this is so good.
I love it.
Right?
I love it.
Sorry, that sparked my thought when you said.
No, that's pure gold, right? And that's what we're believing as well, is like, as we present the word, because God's word is inspired by him, yes, written by man, but inspired by his spirit. He knows the hearts and the minds and the souls of that are sitting in these spaces. So if you're in Clinton, if you're in Exeter, or you're in Forest, or you're in Poplar Hill, or maybe you're watching online.
I thought you were going to say the fifth location. I was going to say,
I wouldn't say that. But if you are sitting in these spaces, know that the Father, because he created you, loves you, and desires to be in proximity with you. Know that he will reveal himself. Maybe it's just the peek through, or it's just the slow removing of the veil. But know that those hearts in those spaces, we're believing that God is meeting them where they are at. Right? Someone said to me, even if someone doesn't come forward, don't rob God of actually working in the chairs the way you don't see it.
Yeah, I think your culture in Exeter is uniquely different than Poplar Hill in some ways and other locations. I think the people that come forward is God's grace of allowing us to see a moment.
We're getting a front row seat.
You get a front row seat. Just because someone doesn't come forward doesn't mean that God isn't working in the seats. And I think that's critical to understand. Yeah, there was I had a thought there. Oh man, you were talking about something and it's escaped me. I wanted to add it in. Maybe it'll come back to me.
Cool.
Having a seniors moment.
Well, now you get a discount at Shoppers, don't you?
No, Rexall actually has a 55 plus parking spot, which I saw the other day, which I couldn't bring myself to park in it.
I tried not too long ago getting the seniors discount at the grocery store here, because it said ask for your seniors discount. The kid was like 15 behind the counter. I was like, yo, I'll get my seniors discount. And he was like, I had him on skates. He was slipping all over the place. He didn't know what to do.
Dude, it was awesome. You can't do that to these poor kids.
Well, I told him he was all good. I was like, hey, don't worry about it. Next time. But let's transition to wrap this thing up, okay?
You're a goof. Anyway, go ahead. Wrap it up.
Brand new series. This is our second version of doing it.
Yeah.
True life, true power.
Yeah.
Walking in the narrow path. Notice that you are in proximity with others. There's other people like you, rubbing shoulders, have questions, trying to figure it out. For you, Ron, thinking about the next 9 weeks as we look at these gifts, right? Because we can't look at all 20 whatever gifts.
Yeah, we're not going to
But
do
it's
that.
a 3-year plan. What's your encouragement for people in Connect groups? And then also your encouragement for people that are maybe newer and not connected yet. And they're like really wrestling with this.
Yeah. You guys got to go, right? In a minute. Are you guys good? Okay. They're all looking at their watches, I think. I would say this, Dave. Go into your Connect groups with an open mind and open heart to what God might do. I know it sounds like the right answer, but it is the right answer. Like, allow yourself to discover your spiritual gifts in community. Like, we're not going to pass out a spiritual gift test. Use the handout that we gave with a little ring on it. Use those things in context of community. If you're not in community, be okay with just being in the room in each of our sites. Just show up and let the Spirit of God work in you. And if you're not yet a follower of Jesus, first question would be, why not? And the second is, let's take that step of faith and we'll help you with that. Reach out to us. But can I say one thing that I wanted to say that I forgot, but now I remember?
Go for it.
Okay. If you don't know what your spiritual gifts are, use your natural talents and acquired abilities to honor God.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Okay. One of our residents in the room here is, he's a very talented songwriter, right?
Yeah.
Use that to honor God.
Mm-hmm.
You've got this natural talent. Use it to honor God, and God will use it. The Spirit can use our natural talents and our acquired abilities.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't know what your spiritual gifts are, don't sit back and do nothing. Because when you actually when you engage those two things, natural talent, acquired ability, God will reveal your spiritual gift.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Makes total sense.
Because I don't want people to sit back and go, well, I don't know my spiritual gift, so therefore I'm not going to do anything. Well, it's far easier to steer a moving vehicle, right? It's hard to steer a parked car. So start moving. Take your acquired abilities and natural talents, honor God with them, and begin to discover what your gifts are.
Dang.
Okay.
Whew. Love it.
It's good to have you back.
It's been fun.
It's been really great.
I love it. It's yeah. I just like you said, like having front row seats is just amazing to watch people explore and grow in these things.
Yeah.
Right.
It is wild.
Even for myself.
Like we as staff and as residents, and we get to see people come alive with their gifts and their stuff. It's like, I hope we never lose the wonder and awe of that.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, wrap it up.
Okay. Thanks so much for listening, tuning in, or watching. It's great. It is great. And I should say, if the Spirit of God is tugging on your heart, the best thing would do to respond and to listen even more. And maybe even just whisper the words, Lord, speak to me.
Yeah.
Reveal who you are to me. And you'd be surprised the way he reveals himself to you, the way you need to be revealed to.
Yeah. So good.
We can't wait to celebrate people discovering their gifts, getting connected, and finding true life and true power. So thanks so much for listening. Thanks, Ron.
Thanks,
Dad, buddy guy.
Oh my goodness.
I love it. Okay. Peace out, everyone. Have a good one.
Peace.